Hey guys, how are you all? Hope so you all are doing well. So let's start the story without any further conversation. Okay, so today the part is short, but I start the new story tomorrow. Okay, Yoongi come out. He is so Yoongi Taehyung. Taehyung, yes Hyung. Taehyung, Yoongi. Jimin is sleeping. I am going for some work. Take care of him, he said, and about to go, but Mr. Park and Mrs. Park come. He stopped. He looked at his father, who signed as yes. Okay, so Jimin parents is in London. That's why they take time to come. Mrs. Park, how's my Jimin? Mr. Park, can't you take care of him? What you did with my son? He said when Yoongi didn't say anything. Mrs. Park, it's not his. Mr. Park, I don't leave my son here for 1 minute. Okay, so it's finished from 9:50. Yeah, happens. Mr. Park, I don't listen anyone. He said in voice, Yoongi uncle, watch your Mr. Park. You first did, huh? Yoongi, if you are talking like this, then it's my and my matter. Mr. Park, you, Mrs. Park, he's saying right. We are here to see Jimin. We are here to see Jimin. Not for all this. She said being and Mrs. and Mr. Park go. Mrs. Park Yoongi, Mrs. Min. That's a sorry from him, please. Yoongi, no auntie. He is Jimin's father. He have for right on him. Mrs. Park, but still son. Mrs. Min, it's okay, we can understand. Mrs. Park nodded. Yoongi signed, Chiang and they go from the Mrs. Park. Some hours pass. Some hours pass. They give permission to meet with Jimin. Jimin is totally awake now. They all are for the come. Then they know everything is okay or not. Mrs. Park, my son, you okay? Jimin, mom, I miss you. Mrs. Park, me too, my son. Mr. Park, Jimin, dad. Mr. Park, you okay? Jimin, I'm fine, dad. He said with a smile. Mrs. Min, he see Mrs. Min and smile. Mrs. Min, you are so strong, my son. Jimin, mom, Yoongi. Mrs. Min, he said she have some work to do. Jimin become as Yoongi have to be here with him right now. Mrs. Park, what happened? Jimin call Yoongi mom. Mrs. Park, I call him. She said she could do Yoongi enter in the room. He have Jimin file in his hand. They all look at him. Yoongi, you okay? Jimin, Yoongi are he asked and Yoongi smiled. Yoongi, everything is fine. He said and they all sign in real life. Jimin, really? He asked with a small smile. Yoongi nodded. Yoongi, everything is okay. R is also now sleep peacefully. You need rest. He said and fell from his eyes. Yoongi wiped his and hold his hand. He started to sleep. Mrs. Min, Yoongi, really everything is fine. Yoongi, yes, mom. We can take Jimin home tomorrow. Mrs. Min, thank God. Yoongi, see Jimin. Yoongi, see Jimin fell in sleep. He is caressing his hairs. Mrs. Park, Yoongi. Yoongi looked at her. Mrs. Park, I know my son well. He is, you no need to listen him. Said him. Continue his studies later. Hmm. Oh. Yoongi, it's my auntie. I am not good, he said, and see Jim and Mrs. Park. No, Yoongi, you both are right on your places. You both are right on your place. It's first time. So many things happens and I know Jimin. Don't listen you. He said you. He managed his studies. Leave my son, leave my son here, Mrs. Park. It's not his. Our Jimin is so stubborn. We know him, Mr. Park. We have to make him understand. Mrs. Park, like this work, Jimin also have to. She could complete Mr. Park. Speak something, Mr. Park. I take my son with me. Yoongi is silent as he don't want to do with anyone. The thing is, what Jimin be fine. Mrs. Park stays silent. Mrs. Min become Mr. Min is not here. He is in office. It's almost आवाज हल्की कर यार आवाज हल्की कर Hmm. I know there are so many noises, but it's alright. He can't move. He can't move as Jimin holds his hand. It's almost midnight when Jimin slowly opens his eyes. He sees Yoongi who's looking at him. Yoongi, how are you feeling? Jimin see his hand. Jimin, you don't move from here. Yoongi, that's not the answer of my question. That's not the answer of my question. Jimin, I am okay. Yoongi, if you feel any, tell me. Jimin sign as promote. Jimin, where is everyone? Yoongi, they go home. Jimin, you also go home for some times, Yoongi. Yoongi, you think I can do that? Jimin say him and he sign. Jimin, take some rest for some times, Yoongi, he said and Jim. Yoongi, you make me. He whisper and Jimin caressing his hair slowly. Jimin, me too, Yoongi. I don't want to. Yoongi, how can I be a good Jimin? I am not even a good. I can't even take care of you properly. How can I manage everything in future? He said, and Jimin seeing him, he on his forehead. Jimin, you are Yoongi, and also you will be the best. I know it's not your fault. Jimin, I always pray Yoongi I have a partner like you. Yoongi smile. Yoongi, it's too far, Jimin. It's too far, Jimin. Jimin, I know, but still I pray, Yoongi. Your father want to go with them. Want you go with them, Jimin, but her dad is too much. He become his sign and they talk for some times and then Yoongi fell in sleep. Jimin seeing him sleepy, he smiled lightly. Jimin in mind, you don't know Yoongi how much I become. For a moment I think everything is his sign and the night passed like this. Next day, Jimin sit, he saw to move for now. Yoongi, you okay? Okay, बात कट करें. Yoongi, you okay? Jimin nodded. He just take his mat, Mr. Park. Jimin, son, you come with me. Jimin looked at his mom, who signed. Jimin, dad, and everyone present here. Listen me carefully. I don't go anywhere. I stay at my apartment. He said. Then Mrs. Win smiled to see him. Mr. Park, Jimin, son, we take care of you. Jimin, you can't dad the way he do, Mr. Park. But son, Jimin, this is my last decision. If anyone happen, they can go. Yoongi, Jimin, he is your dad. Jimin, then why he is saying to go with him? Yoongi, he care for you, Jimin, but you do more. Mr. Park, my son have Mrs. Park, my son have talent to make the other person the other person, he said, and Yoongi nodded. As it's true, Jimin make up out. Mr. Park, I see how much he take care of you. If he do not all this happens, he said, and Jimin see Yoongi. He's already have and now all this. Jimin mom, take you from here. Said him don't said anything to Yoongi. He don't do anything. You no need to come here. I don't care you come or not. He said in, and they all become shocked. And they all become shocked, Jimin. If he said again something to Yoongi, then I will the every relation with him. He said, and everyone don't believe. Yoongi know his moods well. He go and cupped his face. He start to calm him. Yoongi, Jiminy, he is your father. It's okay. He is elder than us. Jimin, but he is saying, Yoongi, it's okay. It's okay that you are good boy, right? Said sorry. His voice is extreme level soft. They all melt here. Jimin makeup pouch and sorry. He said cutely. They all go at his cuteness. Mr. Park, Mrs. Park, it's okay, son. You stay here with Yoongi. No one stop you. And if you leave, and don't think about and don't about your dad, leave your dad, she said. And Jimin smiled to see Yoongi. They all sign in real life. Yoongi, let's go home. Mr. Min, Yoongi, I am thinking you and Jimin shift in Min mention till the, as Jimin parents will also be there. We will also no Jimin, we will also Jimin, no, Yoongi don't like all this. He could speak, but Mrs. Min speak. Mrs. Min, right? It's good for Jimin. It's good for Jimin to stay in front of our eyes. To stay, to stay in front of our eyes. Jimin, you all come at our apartment. I don't go anywhere. I stay there, unnoticed by everyone. He is feeling proud on Yoongi. Yoongi, don't you all trust me? Jimin, leave them if they don't, like we care, he said, and they all become shocked by Jimin's behavior. Mr. Min, no, we don't said this, okay, my son. Don't want to come, no one him. Yoongi, I go to take your, you be ready, he said, and Jimin nodded. Mrs. Park came to stand up. Jimin is so, that's why their parents is saying this. Jimin know this also, but he know Yoongi feel as he become, he can't take care of him. Good, that's why his family is doing this, and Jimin don't let this happen, as he know how much Yoongi take care of him, how much Yoongi and how and what he think. They come home. They come home. Jimin sit on the bed. Yoongi, you okay? Jimin, I am fine. Jimin holds his hand. Jimin, Yoongi, nothing happens. Nothing happens because of you, he said, and Yoongi see him. He smiled lightly. Yoongi, I am fine. You no need to think. Jimin, Yoongi is really fine, right? Yoongi nodded. Yoongi, yes, everything. Yes, Jimin, everything is fine, he said, and Jimin nodded as he trusted him so much. Yoongi, now you take some rest. I will be back in some minutes, he said, and Jimin nodded. He lay on the bed. Yoongi come out from the room. He see his and Jimin parents is here in the living room. Hmm. Okay. Yoongi, you all must be tired. Take some rest. So they decide to stay here as Mrs. Min and Mr. Park is not ready to leave Jimin. Yoongi show them their rooms and Mrs. Park come out. Yoongi, you want something? Mrs. Park, nothing, son. I just come to ask you. You do breakfast? Yoongi, I will do with Jimin when he wake up. Mrs. Park, Yoongi, son, take care of yourself also. I know what they all are doing is wrong, but how you feel, but I know you are the best choice for me. And I am so happy I got a son like you. You will be the bestest. she said. Then Yoongi somewhere felt peace. He nodded and she talked a little bit and she about to go. Yoongi auntie, Mrs. Park, yes son, Yoongi auntie, I am going for some work. You stay with Jimin. He is sleeping. If we wake up, handle him. I may don't attend the call also. Mrs. Park, I will. But son, everything is fine. Yoongi, yes, I just go university for doing some work. Yoongi come in. Yoongi come in the room. There he see Lisa, who sit on the bed. Lisa look up and see Yoongi. She becomes shocked for some times to see him here, like what he is doing here. Lisa, Mr. Min. She becomes shocked as it's been 2 days she is here. No one come to see her. She is so hungry also. She went toward Jungi and about to him, but Jungi her and she on the ground. She looked at Jungi. Jungi, how you two? Just think about. He bent down in front of her and she seems like she'd never expect this. Something happens like this, and from where Jungi got to know all this as he knows Jimin don't tell him anything. Hmm. And there Jungkook and there Jungkook come. Jungkook, what are you doing, Yoongi? Yoongi, I will hurt Jungkook because of her Amit. He stopped. The words is not coming, Yoongi. He said, then Jungkook can understand. It's Jungkook, we understand. But we are still finding. I am checking the we her to. He said, then she is Yoongi. See her with Yoongi. I will the Jimin sit on. Jimin sit on the bed and everyone is in the room. Mrs. Min is trying to him uh, with his favorite ice cream. Mrs. Park is saying he go university for some work. He comes soon and bring gift for him. Mrs. Park is trying to change the topic, and Mr. Min is calling Yoongi. It's been just 10 minutes. He wake up and he don't see Yoongi. That's why he's Jimin. Because of you all he go. I don't know anything. I want him here right now. He and make everyone silent. They gulp and look at each other. Jimin is continuously and then they hear the door opening voice. Everyone turn their head and see Yoongi. And they sign in real life. Once again, Jimin sees Yoongi with his eyes and he becomes Yoongi. What happened? He asks softly and Jimin him. He start to he look at everyone who join their hands as he don't go anywhere from now. Jimin, where you go? Yoongi, I go for some work, but why? But why are you? Jimin back. He see him. Jimin, you go. I was so hungry. No one gave me something to eat. I am feeling also. They don't ask me. See my hands. Yoongi, why you don't ask him? Why you don't ask him? He's feeling or not. He look at everyone. Jimin, they don't give me something to eat also. He said, and Yoongi see Mrs. Pai sit there with his favorite ice cream. Jimin nodded. Yoongi, I off the Jimin, no, you don't. I feel that. Yoongi, so what you want? Jimin, you stay here with me. Yoongi, but I was thinking to make your favorite food. Jimin, huh? Then I come with you in kitchen. Yoongi, you know you need rest. Jimin, make up out. Jimin, I am not hungry. You stay here. Yoongi, but Jimin, no. This is the third last scene. Hi. Time passed, Jimin. Time passed, Jimin sit in the living room. He is at as it's his days. He sit on the couch eating apple and the others is seeing him. Jimin see them and he see the small mirror. He see himself, and then he see the apple. He make a big pouch. They all look at each other. Jimin eyes turn watery slowly. Mrs. Min, what happened, Jiminy? You want something? Jimin, I gained so much. I am feeling hungry also. Mrs. Park, so it's okay, son. You are looking so cute like this. You eat if you want to. Jimin Jungi can't he leave me? I know. He said, and look at everyone. 45 is in university. Mrs. Park, he don't, son. Jimin, no, I don't eat. I do dieting from now. He said, and they all become Mr. Min. No, Jimin son, you eat. If you don't eat, I also don't. He said, and then Yoongi come. Mrs. Min, see his son, Mrs. Min. You come, son. Yoongi eyes is on the phone. Yoongi, yeah, Jimin is watching it, and again he see himself in the mirror. Yoongi, I come back in 10 minutes, he said, and go for fresh up as he have to go on meeting. Jimin, he don't even look at me. He mumble and they all smile. Mrs. Park, Jimin moods is so much. Come, Yoongi mom, I am going for meeting. He is reading some papers. He go from there. Don't look at Jimin once again. Jimin looking down, he placed everything on the side and about to stand up. Mrs. Min, where are you going, son? Jimin, I am going for taking rest. Don't send anyone in my room, he said, and he goes slowly. Mrs. Min see him. Mrs. Min, let him come. I ask him why he is him, she said, and they all chuckled to see them. Time skip, it's night time. Yoongi come. He see his parents. Yoongi, hey everyone. Mrs. Min, you cat, you make my son sad. Yoongi mom, I'm not cat, first of all, and your son Jimin. Mrs. Park, yeah, why you are not talking with him? You know his moods. Yoongi, I am not him, auntie. I have to go on the meeting. It's so important. I know if I talk with him, he don't let me go. That's why I have to do this. Mrs. Minjor is thinking you don't think anymore and so much things. Yoongi, he thinks so many things till now. I know him. I see him. He said, and go. This is the second last scene. Yoongi opened the door slowly. He sees Jimin sit on the bed and looking down, make a big pouch. Yoongi smile. He is looking so cute right now. Yoongi went to him and Jimin see him. Yoongi sit in front of him. Jimin eyes is also as he see him is rolling from his eyes. Yoongi, it's somewhere. Jimin's eyes no Yoongi, then why he sit beside him? Jimin, you me in morning, Yoongi, no, I don't. And when it's happened, Jimin look up. He say him, Jimin, no, you come home. You don't look at me nor you ask about me from anyone. Yoongi, I go for some work. I know. If I see you, I can't go on my work. Jimin, you promise me you don't go university from next week. Yoongi, I don't go. It's last day. I go today. Jimin seeing him and Yoongi on his eyes. Yoongi, you do the dinner. Jimin sign as no. Yoongi, I said you don't. Can Yogi? I said you don't. Huh? Don't do this. Jimin, I was waiting for you. Yoongi, why? You are so cute. Jimin, you still? He said with the sparkle eyes. Yoongi, I in past, present, future for my whole life. He said, then Jimin smiled. He on his cheeks. Yoongi, Don't be like this. I know how I am. He said, and Jimin giggled, and he go for bringing dinner. I feel so good with him. Yoongi come and start to him. Jimin also. They do the dinner and lay on the bed. Jimin, Yoongi, Yoongi, yes. Jimin, you decide the names. Yoongi, still not now. Jimin, then when we start then when we do Yoongi, we don't know it will be. We don't know it's good or not. So how can Jimin? If it's then let me think first. Yoongi, I really don't know about this, Jimin. Tomorrow we search on Google. Yoongi, alright. He said. Then Jimin closed his eyes and he fell in sleep. Hmm. Jimin, you okay? Jimin, he whispered, and Yoongi sit on the bed. Jimin, Yoongi wait, and sit, and then voiceover. He started caressing his hairs most of the time. It happens as he don't sleep whole nights, and Jimin fell in sleep. It's morning when Jimin wake up. He see Yoongi. Yoongi, you wake up. How are you? Jimin, I am okay now. Yoongi, good. Come, let's go outside. Jimin, Yoongi, yes, Jimin. So you have to because of me, Yoongi. I take care of you for some days. What's the matter in this, huh? It's okay. Hmm. It's okay. That is not only your responsibility. He said, and on his forehead. Then he in fresh up. He said him he don't go anywhere. He don't go out from the nor he go in the living room. He just stay in the room and take rest. The day finally come. They are so happy. Everyone is so happy. Yoongi see her, but he don't till now, as he is iffy her. She's so small that time passed. They take Jimin home. Also, they all spend a good time together. Everyone is in the living room right now with their parent, and Jimin is in the room with his mom. He's trying to sleep. Jimin mom, he called her in sleeping voice. Mrs. Park, yes, my son. Jimin sent Yoongi. Mrs. Park, I sent him. Huh, she said, and go from there. Jimin opened his eyes. He wanted to talk with Yoongi as he don't. It's been a long time. He's staring the ceiling. 5 minutes passed. Yoongi come. Yoongi smiled to see him and went to him. Yoongi, you okay? Jimin nodded. Jimin, Yoongi, are you happy? Yoongi, you're asking me this really? I'm so happy. Thanks so much for this much precious gift. मैं वॉइस ओवर करके थक गई. Jimin smiled to see him. Jimin, don't you her? Yoongi, I am. If as she is so small. Jimin sighed as though. Jimin, you don't. They are talking when Mrs. Min come. Mrs. Min, Jimin's son. She is sleeping. Take her. She sighed, and Jimin signed Yoongi to take her. Second last scene and the third last text. Carefully take her. Carefully take her and she's so small and beautiful. Yoongi sit beside Jimin. Yoongi sit beside Jimin and Mrs. Mingo. She give them some family time. Jimin, she's like you, Yoongi. Yoongi hopes so she will be like you, Jimin, and she get a partner like you, he said, and they both chuckle at the same time. Yoongi, so now what's her name, huh? Jimin started. Yoongi, Jimin see her, and it's a good family. It's night time, Jimin, and she's sleeping. Yoongi phone ringing. He's doing some work. He attend the call. Yoongi hates Jungkook. Jungkook decided she tried to someone, so she lived in for her. Last scene and the second last text. Time skip after um wait a minute. Skip. Time skip after some months is their graduation day, so Jimin give exams online. He don't waste his time. Everyone take their degrees and now enjoying in the ground. Jimin class fellows ask him how's he and many more young Mr. Min. Yoongi come. Yoongi Jan complete your promise. We want to meet your partner. He said then Jimin signed Jimin guys. Yoongi meet him. He's Min Jimin. He said and Jimin signed. They all are shocked. Taehyung start laughing to see their reaction as they know this something is coming. Nancy, you and Mr. Yoongi. Last scene and the last text Jimin guys. Everyone, congratulations. We are so happy for you both and want treat. This said Jimin and Sani in real life to see them as they have a good bonding with these class fellows. And oh, she's so cute. She's like you, Jimin. But huh? He said, and they start to see him. Next to Arvid by yourself. Bye bye. Take care of yourself, Saranghaeeee.